The topic that I chose this week is prostitution. Prostitution is called the oldest profession for a reason. More especially, I shall be looking at recent developments towards, on the one hand, legalization of prostitution, and on the other, a crackdown by the criminal justice authorities on the organized criminal networks that would appear to have gained the upper hand in Amsterdam's red light district, Brands 1. Many women have made a living since the beginning of time through this when they felt they had nothing else to offer or nothing to do for work. Over the years, a stigma has been attached to it and to people that take up the profession. In my personal opinion, I think that prostitution should be legal. Now, saying that I believe it should be legal doesn't mean that it shouldn't be regulated. But if it was legal, there would be a lot less arrest of women, and they wouldn't have to keep doing the profession to pay off things like bail. Studies of prostitutes and their clients, as well as larger social studies, undercut the arguments against decriminalization and legalization, and reveal that none of the traditional goals of imposing criminal sanctions, punishment, deterrence, and rehabilitation are furthered by the current prohibition of prostitution, Rio 1. This quote shows that even now with the laws against prostitutes, they are mostly left alone and not prosecuted by the justice system. This means that if it was legalized, there would be less arrests and police could focus more on drugs and violence instead. Since violence does come from prostitution at times, if it was legal, the men who were assaulting women would be taken to jail and off the streets to hurt others in the future. There are many reasons why people are violent towards prostitutes, but there are three main reasons. Discourses relate to three types of violence: interpersonal violence against prostitutes, violence against community order, and sexually transmitted diseases as violence. Benson Hosbach 1. Since there are three main types of violence, police are able to find a motive and put some of these aggressors in jail. While the stigma is still attached, it has been proven that people from different areas all have different attitudes towards the legalization. Furthermore, there are demographic differences that affect attitudes toward legalization, as well as men, Catholics, residents from the western states, and whites are more likely to favor legalization of prostitution than their counterparts. May 1. This quote shows that depending on where you live, what your religious beliefs are, and your gender and race all have to do with how you feel about prostitution and its legalization. Another reason for legalization is working call girls and how they operate. Call girls work as independent operators in their homes or fairly fancy hotels and charge a lot of money for their services, which includes sex, but also talking and dining. Social Problems, Continuity and Change 9.4, Prostitution 408. In the quote, it shows that call girls aren't always used for sex, but for dinners and even conversation if that's what the client wants. Not everything in their line of work requires you to sleep with the person who hired you. Additionally, it is a high-paying job that can have many benefits attached to it. For indoor workers, and especially call girls, prostitution is a potentially well-paying occupation. Social Problems, Continuity and Change, Chapter 9.4, Prostitution 409. Call girls have the potential to make a large amount of money to pay off their bills, buy homes, and most importantly, provide for any family that they may have. In order for this to work, they have parameters within the agency that make sure the girls are protected and not assaulted or even killed in certain cases. When U.S. prostitution was legal a century ago in brothels across the nation, brothel prostitutes were safer than streetwalkers are now. Social Problems, Continuity and Change, Chapter 9.4, Prostitution 413. After reading into some of the regulations that call girl companies have, I believe that the justice system should also implement some of the same protocols that go hand in hand with the companies. First off, mandatory condom use and other safe sex practices are typical in legal brothels, and the workers face much lower risk of abuse from customers. Social Problems, Continuity and Change, Chapter 9.4, Prostitution 413. One of the main three reasons prostitutes face an act of violence is sexually transmitted diseases. Sexually transmitted diseases as violence is a major reason, and if everyone was made to use a condom and it was controlled, then it would alleviate a category of violence towards call girls and other prostitutes. The next protocol should be broken up into a number of laws to pinpoint crimes and be able to convict people of these certain crimes. Any violence that is towards a person working in this field should have a consequence, whether it is community service all the way up to facing prison time. These laws should cover different things from assault to rape, and especially if an employee is found dead. If any of these were implemented as the laws, the workers in this field would be protected. Although their models of legalization vary, the available evidence indicates that legalizing prostitution does, in fact, reduce the many problems now associated with illegal prostitution. Social Problems, Continuity and Change, Chapter 9.4, Prostitution 413. If prostitution and working call girls businesses were legal, the crime rate would be lower and the stigma would go down. Additionally, the people currently working in these various fields would be protected instead of segregated against for where the line of work they're in.